Hello and welcome to another dodgy summer's day in the UK. It might rain, it might not, who's to know? So in the meantime, hopefully the rain will hold off while we do this video, and it's about starting cycling. If you are new to cycling, or if you've just started, been cycling a little while, keep watching the video to find some top tips for beginners to cycling. So the first thing you can do as a beginner is check your bike before you go out on rides. One way of doing that is the M check, and it's M because it makes a form of an M as you're doing the check. So you'd start down here by the front wheel, check your quick releases are tight or your axles, check the spokes, have a look for the spokes, make sure there's nothing obviously wrong with them, check the tyre pressure and that the wheels run smooth. And as you're doing that, you can check your tyres to make sure there's no cuts or flints or anything stuck in the tyre. And then coming up here to the handlebars, you check your brakes seem to work okay and that there's no rocking. If you put your front brake on and rock the bike forwards and backwards, check there's no looseness in the headset here. And then going down the bike, checking the pedals look okay and that the cranks seems to be okay, the chains looking okay too, and then working your way back up, making sure that perhaps the saddle hasn't slipped down since you used the bike last time. Coming down again to the back of the bike, you'd be checking the rear wheel again for any flints or anything that's wrong with the tyre, making sure of course it's inflated by doing the good old finger test, and then checking the gears again, making sure nothing looks untoward. The spokes on the rear of the tyre or the rear of the wheel are okay, and checking your axles and quick releases. So that's always a good check just to go through before you start riding to make sure you're going to have a good ride. Hope you're enjoying this video. If you are, please consider liking and subscribing because it's really going to help the channel grow. Thanks. One thing you can do if you're on a nice quiet road like this is practice some skills such as riding one-handed. If you need to reach down, get your bottle, have a drink, put it back in, it's a good thing to do to practice that on a quiet road. Sometimes you might need to cycle no-handed, or it might help if you can cycle no-handed to undo a rain jacket or something like that. So practice while you're riding along a quiet road. You can practice being no-handed or one-handed, reaching down, getting your bottle, doing things like that. Another thing which helps is when you start cycling, you often tend to cycle quite upright with your arms sort of stiff and locked out, and as soon as you hit a bump, it's going to be carried right through your elbows and joints and you're really going to feel it. So another good thing for beginners is to practice with your elbows a little bit bent, and that's going to mean you've got sort of built-in shock absorbers when you go over bumps or anything like that. It's going to make it a more pleasant experience on the bike. Another tip, when you're cycling around corners, bring your inner leg up. And if you bring your inner leg up on a corner and your outside leg down, that's going to help you corner. It's going to avoid your pedal hitting the floor, which could well take you off your bike, and it's going to mean more grip as well, because when you put the outside pedal down, you can really push down on that outside pedal, and that will help keep grip in the corner, especially if you're going fast or descending a mountain or a hill. You'll find that's another useful tip to do. Another thing that's a key thing to riding well in a group, if you find yourself with other people, is to keep your riding steady. You never brake too sharply, on a bike, especially if there's people behind you. So another thing you don't want to do if you're riding in a group is surge, which means suddenly put a surge of power in, suddenly start going faster when the group's been going 15 miles an hour. Don't go and suddenly, if you get on the front, start doing 18. Try to keep the pace of the group nice and steady. And the same as that is half wheeling. If you're riding alongside another person, try to keep your wheel in line with theirs. Don't gradually come forward and edge in front of them, because they'll come up to you, and then if that happens again, you'll just find yourselves getting faster and faster rather than keeping that nice steady pace. So try not to half wheel. Another thing that's useful is to have a rear light. Always is a good safety feature, having a rear light, whether it's daylight or not. A rear light is going to warn traffic of your presence, especially if, like me, you cycle in areas which are quite often sunny, but then you go into trees and it's quite shady. It warns traffic that you're there in that darkness. Another thing that's important to do on the bike, which is why riding one-handed is important, is remembering to drink and eat on the bike, because as a beginner it's very easy to forget that you need to eat, and if you go out and you find yourself doing a ride of a couple of hours, you might find you use a lot of energy in that time and you start running out of fuel, of sugar, glycogen in your body. So it's really important to remember to eat and drink on the bike. So like I said, practice those skills before you do a group ride perhaps. Another thing you could consider doing to help you as a beginner is to get a bike fit, and that's really going to help make sure you've got a good position on the bike so you don't feel uncomfortable or you don't get any injuries from overuse in a bad position. So you could look into getting a bike fit. So I hope you enjoyed this video and I hope you found some of those tips useful, and until next time, see you soon.